the past few days, we have been observing quite a lot of information being disseminated within the public, as well as officials providing information as to the next step to reduce the levels of gang violence and gang warfare within the various communities. It is also disheartening that to this stage that we have not received a very conclusive plan to the general populace to inform us exactly what the government decides on doing for the next perhaps 2 years or the next 5 years if they continue to be the next leading government. The reality is that many times when we do speak, people are on the assumption that we do not understand the nature of politics when it comes to the protection and safety of citizens. We must remember, first and foremost, it is the state's responsibility to ensure that the country and citizens are safe, and they ought to do whatever that is necessary to keep us safe within our homes, within the streets, the public streets, and of course, within our communities. If we've had places and instances where our young persons, our students, our grandmothers, our grandfathers cannot walk within the streets, cannot engage in their livelihoods without being gunned down, and that does not signal very serious nature of this matter to our policymakers, then we ought to ensure that the next time that we elect any government into power, that they have concrete plans as to what kinds of policies that they will implement. A manifesto is basically an outline of the plans that a government seeks to introduce during its administrative period. However, what we're seeing is that it has also been said that some of the claims that have been made by them is that we had plans and apparently it does not work with the environment or the current conditions of the society at stake. But let's just go back a little bit further. Isn't that the same government that advocated for greater participation of citizens, for greater participations of all persons, including the opposition? And at this stage, we're hearing that they were saying that they are still hoping that some kind of relief or some kind of help will fall down from the sky. This is the kind of government that we continue to elect. We as citizens must take our lives into account when we think about the kinds of person that we elect in government, the kinds of person that we elect as our district reps. I would say our role models, the kinds of leaders that we know that actually care and do not just only care when it's appropriate for them, to such a point where they may not even remember how many of these citizens have died. These are very serious matters, and if we don't think how serious those matters are, then we might almost seem to be at a state of loss, a state of darkness, and a state of doom. We cannot continue in that same vein and expect things to happen without persons who are responsible for our safety not doing the job that they ought to be doing. Point in case, we've had that situation a few months ago. The government again called in the RSS to assist St. Lucia. My question is, was any kind of successive plan or planning done in the event that gun violence or gun warfare would have occurred again? Nearly 9 months later, we have to call back the same individuals to help us curb down the same levels of violence. Prime Minister, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself by not doing what is necessary to keep citizens safe. And yes, we do understand the part that we have to play as citizens within society, because the crimes it begins within the communities. And of course, the police cannot monitor gang warfare or criminal behavior 24 hours. They can't. And it is also our responsibility. But if you, as the policymakers, cannot manage the government, cannot manage the society, cannot manage the levels of crime, what are you doing there? What are you doing there, Mr. Prime Minister? Line will not change. My dark humor will not change until your government does better. Until they take up the mantle that was given to them and do what is required of them. It is their moral duty to serve the people and to serve them with vigor and honesty and integrity. And that also means for you, Mr. Minister of Housing, your actions against the persons at the CDC complex, public housing facilities, it's a crying shame. This is not how we should be treating our citizens. Wherever you thought that was acceptable, and whoever continues to support you on those types of decisions that you're making, it's unethical. It's really unethical. And if you don't see it that way, then I myself I'm not surprised. Because any ethical person, any conscious being would know that this is not the time to be throwing people out of their homes, throwing them on the streets. Not the time. Find alternative solutions to them so that you can assist them. Find other ways to help them get back on their feet. Because post-COVID, some of them are still on their knees. And for you to come in now and kick them to the curb tells me a lot about your character, so. And I'm not afraid that you will, do what you usually do. I'm not even perturbed by it. I just expect you to do better. And I'm extremely disappointed because you're also my rep. You've been my rep for a while. And so when you make decisions like that, it hurts my heart that you're the one who's the caretaker for my family members, my community members. It breaks my heart. So everything I say here, don't take it personal, because I know you can be petty and act like a raging bull at points sometimes. But think deeply and think as a conscious man, an elder, the things that you do to others when you're in the position of power. And for party supporters, I see you. I see you every single day on social media and have been watching you for the last 10 to 12 years for every successive government. The same pressure that we're giving your government to do better when it comes to crime, the economy, and the state of being in our society is the same type of pressure that we gave to the past administration without favor. So it's not going to change. And we're not going to lower our bars for your government, for your party. If you are familiar with lowering your bars for them because of their standards, we don't. Ask them to do better. Ask them to do the necessary research, whether it's on gang violence, on policies for gun possessions and gun control, and for greater protections of citizens. If a country or a state cannot protect you, who do you think is going to protect you? Who? The only solution that you may have at some point is to make deals with gang leaders to protect your community. And once that happens, we no longer have a state. We have garrisons. So if the government doesn't do what it's supposed to do in the next few weeks, your next form of government will be garrisons. And if you don't know what a garrison looks like, I'm quite sure you can Google it. So for the party supporters, while you're being silent and trying to silence others from speaking or from posting and threatening their jobs, and threatening to publicly humiliate them, especially the women, by using their sexuality against them. These are different times. And if you from my generation, we don't play those games. We know when to be very serious and do our work. And we know when to add humor and laugh. But when it comes to serious business, don't try to intimidate us. Pa try sa. Sa pa kay twa vai. Nou pa pezot. Si nou to pezot, nou pa kay di sa nou devle di. Hot sa di tout sa hot vle. Aso mwe, aso lot moun. Sa pa kay chanje anye. The government at this time seems incompetent and ineffective. You are asking the question of how we can help. How are we going to help you? How? You knew you were coming into administration. You were the next incoming government. You should have had a plan for every sector of society. Do your job. Do your job. We will not stand in your way if you're doing your job. When you're not doing your job, that's when you see us or you hear us. When you do well, we applaud you. When you do papi show, we tell you sotila by a lot more chance. Because when you're dealing with lives, we can't take chances. Do your job and do it well.